Hello there, I'm Natalia and welcome to Beads Jar and another tutorial, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a very simple wire wrapped ring but in a medieval fantasy style. So we can imagine a queen wearing this ring, and it's using the Swarovski pearls in the soft shades of pastel colours and also these fabulous Miyuki baroque beads. So take a look at the tutorial and I'll show you everything you need to know to make these beautiful rings. So here are the ingredients that you're going to need to make this medieval fantasy ring. So first of all, your primary ingredient is one of these 12mm Swarovski pearls. I just love them because they have this very subtle finish. They're not super shiny, and it's called powder, a powder finish on the pearl. So for the ring that I've got here, I've used powder almond, and it looks beautiful. You could also use powder pink, which you get a different look from. I'll just show you that. And I've used some crystal bicones, Swarovski crystal bicones, so you can see how much more delicate and feminine that looks. So choose whichever one you'd like. And then for the beads that are going around the pearl, we've got these 6-0 Miyuki seed beads, and they are baroque pearlescent silver. You could also use a similar bead, which is the baroque pearl white Miyuki beads. They're both the 6-0 sizes. So you're going to need your wire for the ring, and this is gilt coloured wire, so it's gilt on copper, and it is 0.8 gauge. So you'll need approximately ½ a metre for this project to make one ring. You're also going to need a different gauge of this gilt on copper wire, and this is 0.5 gauge. And again, you'll need about ⅓ of a metre, ½ a metre for the project. And then the tools you're going to need, we're going to use the chain nose pliers, the wire cutters, and believe me, a really good pair of wire cutters that can get in very close to the wire will be absolutely essential for you when you're making wire wrapped rings. I'm going to be using these nylon jaw pliers because when you're using wire that is coated like this, it helps to use the nylon jaw pliers because it stops you from dragging the colour off the wire, which any wire that's coated, that will happen if you're using metal pliers. And then we've got a ring mandrel here so we can get a really good measurement on the ring. Okay, so let's get started with the first part of making the ring shank. And so we're going to take our 0.8 gauge wire, and you'll have already measured on your ring mandrel where exactly you want your ring to go. So I've got an idea. I've kind of made a line here on my ring shank, and you want to make your ring, you want to make it slightly bigger than what your actual size of your ring is, or the size of the finger that you want to put the ring on, because when you're tightening the wire, it really pulls the ring shank in. So go a little bit bigger, go one size up. And so we're going to start by placing the wire centrally on the ring mandrel like that. So we've got equal lengths of wire going up on either side. And then I'm going to take one end of the wire, I'm going to wrap it around twice, just pushing down and making sure that I get it aligned with my line on the ring mandrel. And then I'm going to wrap that other piece of wire around. So I've got can you see I've got 4 circles around the mandrel, and push them down and make sure that I've got the size that I wanted. And then I'm going to bring those 2 pieces up. So bring them so that they align together. I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers and just press those 2 pieces together. So you can see I've got like a little bend, a little kink in the wire on either side. And then I'm just going to use my fingers and twist those 2 wires together. So one 360-degree twist like that, pull it tight, and that's going to keep my wire together reasonably well while I'm working with it, because otherwise it will be springing up all over the place. Okay, so the next stage of the process is to take one of the ends of the wire, whichever one you want to. I'm going to use the left hand one. I'm going to feed that in the hole in the pearl. Now I have tried this and the 0.8 wire just flies through the hole on this pearl really easily. And I'm using the powder pink pearl, so you might have to tug it a little bit to get the pearl to go through. If you're struggling, you might want to use your nylon jewel pliers just to pull along, or a reamer just to remove anything that might be getting in the way inside the ring. So you can see there, I have got probably about 2 centimeters of wire, and I don't want to push the pearl right down to the base of the wire, because what will happen is the pearl will sit at an angle. It won't sit straight. So I need to allow some space for the pearl base to sit on top, if you see what I mean. I'm going to just pull it back ever so slightly, and I'm going to bend that wire. So you can see what I've done here is I have got the wire so that there's enough of it to cover around the base, around the curve of that pearl, so it just sits better when I do that. I'm then going to just take this wire that I've got here, and it's naturally going downwards, it's naturally following the curve of the ring. And I'm just going to thread it through the hole in the shank and feed it around. So what I'm doing here is I'm just securing the ring. With wire, you just need to push it so it gets out of your way when you're trying to do these things. And then I'm going to take that wire, I'm going to feed it again for a second time around the ring shank, going to push it through the hole in the shank. And I just need to feed it up and under, because what we don't want is to be able to see this wire. So I'm just pulling it tight. If you're struggling to get a tightness on these rings of wire that are going around, then get your nylon jewel pliers, because they will be able to grip it better and to help you with it. Or what you could do is you could take your chain nose pliers and you could put some pieces of masking tape on the insides of them so that they don't scratch. That's another tip when you're working with coated wire like this. So I'm going to do this process again, just pulling that wire tight, taking it through for a third time. And this really just makes the shank really nice and secure, and ensures that you have all the wires lined up really nicely. So I'm going to take that down, and we're just going to leave that other piece of wire. I'm pushing it down so that we don't have it sticking up in the way. So the wire will go there. And then I'm going to take my right hand wire, and I'm just going to do what I did on the previous side, which is just to create this kind of V shape. You can see there. And so now we've got the pearl kind of sitting nicely with both wires, and I'm going to wrap that wire once around the base of the pearl. And the reason for doing that is, can you see the pearl wants to start moving and spinning, and we don't want it to once we start tightening the wire. So I've just taken that wire all the way around the base of the pearl, and then I'm going to repeat the process that I did on this side on here. So I'm going to create wraps of wire around the shank. So I'm going to do that. And also when you're working with wire, one of the things to note is the best way to take the wire is wherever it wants to go. If it was trying to point in the opposite direction, you're fighting it, and then you end up with knots and kinks. Now, as you can see, in the process of me using the wire and working with it, it's gone all ripply. I've got like this wave effect on it. So grab your nylon jewel pliers, and then I'm just going to turn that around, and you can just smooth the wire over. And there you go. You can see you've got a nice, smoother piece of wire to work with. So I'm going to repeat the process that I did on the right hand side by just feeding that wire underneath. You might have to give it a hand, because it's not like thread. It tends to want to kink and knot. So there we go. I've pulling that in, getting a tightness on it, as tight as I possibly can. And I'm just pushing this up here, just using my nail to do that. And then I'm taking the wire through a second time, just like we did on the first pass. And if the wire wants to slip down like it just did there, you can just either use your nail or you can use your pliers. Nylon jaw pliers would be even better. Oops, I'm going to use the chain nose pliers to do that. And then just taking that wire around again for a second pass through the shank. And then third time is getting this. Just be careful that you don't knock your pearl out of position as you're doing this. And then really tighten that up. And as you can see, what's happened there is all my wires have got gaps in between. So I do want to just nudge them together. I'm going to use my chain nose pliers to do that. And you want this to be as tidy as you possibly can and pushed up as far, as close as you can to the edge of the ring. All right, so there we go. Now what I'm going to do with this excess wire is I'm going to take it around the base of my pearl like that. So I've done it a couple of times, and then I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm going to snip that wire off. Now if you run your finger along it, if it's sharp, if that piece of wire that you cut, the great thing about these wire cutters is that they're on an angle, so you can get this really beautiful angle when you're cutting, and it doesn't, it means that the wire will sit flush and you won't feel scratchiness. But if there is any scratchiness on it, then just take your chain nose pliers and just rock the wire gently, just press it down until any kind of spikes have disappeared. And we're going to do the same on this side. As you can see, we're just taking that wire across and around the base of the pearl a couple of times. And then I'm going to take my wire cutters and just cut at an angle. Get rid of that excess wire. Just feel, yeah, I can feel a scratch there, so I'm going to just rock that piece of wire down very gently. And now I can't feel anything. I mean, that is going to get covered up by the Miyuki little seed beads that we're going to put around the base of it. But if you wanted to, you could just wear this as a ring if you wanted. Now, if in the process of doing that, my rings stay quite round, but if in the process of doing that your ring has got misshapen, as it does, especially when you're practicing and starting out, you just pop that on your mandrel and you can just rework it so that it looks rounder. You might want to separate the little individual pieces of the ring shank out and manipulate the pearl a little bit so that you can get everything just how you want it. Now for this second part of the project where we're adding the beads around the shank, what I want to do is to keep this on the mandrel because it's so much easier to work with. I just find that all day long it's easier to work with it on a mandrel where it's secure and solid. If you don't have a mandrel, don't worry. Getting hold of one would be useful, but if you don't have one, then just use your hands, it's fine. And for this ring, I think I'm going to use these white pearl 6 size Miyuki seed beads. Now they come in this little pot, so you get plenty of them, and depending on the size of the pearl you're using, the size of the ring, you're going to use a certain amount of them. So I'll try and count them up as I go along, see how many I'm using here. And this is where we're going to bring in our 0.5 gilt on copper silver plated wire. Okay. And how to get started with this? Well, I'm going to take the wire, I'm going to place it on the edge of the base of the pearl. So I've got equal amounts of wire coming out of either side. I'm just going to twist it around one time so I get a nice secure fastening with the wire. And whenever there's two pieces of wire and you're just working with one of them, the best thing to do is to just push it out of the way, the other piece of wire, just push it down so it's not interfering with what you're working with. So I'm going to work with the right hand wire now, and I'm going to start threading the 6 size seed beads on. So we'll see how we go on of how many we need. We're just going to put them around the base of the ring. And the great thing about using the seed beads around this ring, we're going to create 2 layers of the beads, is that you cover up some of the stuff that's going on underneath the ring. So you get this, sometimes you get untidiness going on, which no matter how hard we try, it's not easy to make it absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to start to measure and see how many I'm going to need. So I'm just pulling the wire. So I've got 2, 4, 5 beads on there. I think I'm probably going to need about 12. Let's see how we go on. And you can see how using the mandrel makes it more stable. I'm just going to thread some more of these beads on here. So another 3. Another 5. Let me just put another 6 on and see how we're getting on with that. Oh, we've got too many. Okay, that's great. So I can take some off. So remember, we're going to tighten this wire, so I'm going to take 2 of them off. So I've only needed about 9 beads there. All right, so now we've got all of our beads on that first layer. I'm just going to take the wire. I'm going to pop it through one of these other beads. Just to get some security. And then I'm pulling the wire tight. So I've got my layer of beads there. And then I'm going to take the wire down underneath just to support this layer of beads. I'll just take it off the mandrel for a second. I'm going to wrap the wire around a couple of times and tighten it. And then you can push the beads back up. So you can see that they're nice and tight and snug sitting there. And then I have my second wire, and I'm just going to pull it up. Let me take the other wire. Pull it up through the beads. So I want the wire sitting at the top, so I can begin my next row of beads. So I'll just pull that through. Okay. Adjust my beads accordingly, and then I've got them all sitting nice and comfortably there. And then I'm going to start threading some more beads onto this side of the wire. So this is my next layer of beads. We called this the medieval fantasy ring because Laura in the office, she was saying, oh, it looks like something that a queen would wear from medieval times. So I can imagine some lady sitting having this ring on her hand as she's watching some jousting or something. Okay, so we'll start to send those beads around. So the second layer of beads is going on, and again I'm just going to feed them on until I'm satisfied that I've got enough beads to go all the way around. So hopefully we've got, and you want to make sure that they're nice and tightly packed together. You don't want any spaces. So I'm just going to pop a few more on there. And the amount of beads that you're going to use really depends on how high up the pearl you're going, how the ring turns out. So roughly, let me just count them. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 beads on that second pass. So again, I'm going to take the wire through a couple of the seed beads. The holes are quite big on these, so it's really easy to do that. And then I'm going to pull that tight. And there you can see you've got a nice, secure second row of beads. Now I'm going to take my wire underneath, just going down. So it's going to go in between those 2 layers of beads, and I'm going to wrap it around a couple of times tightly, making sure that I'm doing that. And once you've done that 3 or 4 times, you can then snip off the end of your wire. So go quite far inside so you're not going to see the wire, it's not going to be poking out. And again, we have this excess wire from the other side, so I'm going to just send it around the base a few times. And then I'm going to snip it off. Get my chain nose pliers to the end of them and just press that wire in to make sure that it stays there. And there we have our beautiful medieval fantasy ring, looking pretty impressive there, fit for a queen. Just pop it back onto the mandrel, give it a bit more roundness, and then there you have your rings complete. Now I have actually made some other rings so you can see them. I did this one again with the powder pink pearl using the gold wire, and I've used some bicones there, some Swarovski bicones, so they're very sparkly. That one gives it a whole different look and feel. It's more bridal and girly and sort of day at the races kind of look. I've done it in silver with a more of a wintry sort of looking bead there, and a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more evening, Great Gatsby kind of look. And then I've used this is a glass pearl, so I've used a purple one, and then I've used these check glass beads with it. So you can really change up the look. It's the same procedure, you're just using different types of beads, and you can make it your own, you really can. So I hope you enjoy the project, and I'd love to see what you make, and lots of luck with it. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I do hope that you will subscribe to the channel to catch up with lots more fun, interesting tutorials. Don't forget to like, comment on this video, and also to follow us on Facebook, or to visit our website and see the range of beautiful jewellery making products that we offer. So I look forward to catching up with you very soon for another tutorial. Bye for now.